What's up YouTube, I'm Edwin. Welcome back to my smartphone photography series. So, in my previous video, I've talked about the use of exposure triangle in smartphone photography. And by the way, if you are new to this series, I would recommend you to watch from the playlist which will appear right now, right on the top. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 composition rules that you can use in smartphone photography. Well, do you know what is photo composition? Well, photo composition basically means framing your photo to make it aesthetically pleasing or interesting to the viewer's eyes. So, if you look at this picture, you should be able to understand what is picture composition. If you still don't understand, then let's move on to our first composition so that I can explain furthermore to you. So the first and the most commonly seen one is called as the rule of thirds. Well, rule of thirds is actually the most powerful technique that can actually help you position different elements in the photo. So some of you might ask me, what is rule of thirds? Well, the rule of thirds is about dividing your shots into 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, which makes up 9 equal boxes that you can position your subjects. So, photographer usually puts their subjects onto either one of the intersection points. Do you know why? Well, I'll tell you why later. Actually, most of the modern smartphone camera nowadays can overlay the lines over the screen before taking the photo. Well, these are referred as either grids or grid lines. Well, if you don't know how to turn it on, you can check my first video on smartphone photography, which is the 5 tips that you might not know about smartphone photography. Well, to view that video, you can click on the link in the description box down below, or you can click on the info card in order to view that video. So, in that video, I've explained about the different camera settings that you can set up on different smartphones. If you watch that video, it will really help you out a lot. So, I would recommend you to start watching from that video first. Okay, so let's continue back to our rule of thirds. So, the rule of thirds is a technique that works well for landscapes, as you can position the horizon on one of the horizontal lines that sits in the lower and upper part of the photograph, while your vertical subjects, such as trees, can be placed on one of the 2 vertical lines. Well, after knowing that what is rule of thirds, some of you might ask me, why do I have to use rule of thirds? Well, let's compare these 2 images. Well, if you take a close look, the one on the left is less interesting and the one on the right is more interesting. Why? Because the one on the left have no rule of thirds applied to it, but the one on the right applied rule of thirds. Well, the basic theory goes like this. The human eyes tends to be more interested in images that are divided into thirds, with the subjects falling at or along one of those divisions. The idea is that an off-center composition is more pleasing to the eyes and looks more natural than the one where the subject is placed right in the middle of the frame. It also encourages you to make creative use of the negative space. So, you might also ask me, what is negative space? Negative space is simple. Negative space is just the empty areas around your subjects. So, after knowing why do you need to use rule of thirds and what is rule of thirds, we will learn how to use rule of thirds. Well, first, we'll look at this picture example. When framing a photo, imagine the scene is divided up as the one shown right here. Well, think about it. What elements of the photo are most important one, and try to position them at or near the lines and intersections of the grid. They don't have to perfectly line up with the line, but they have to be close. So at this point, you should be able to see that the rule of thirds is very versatile and can be applied on basically any objects, anywhere, and anything. Next, I will be showing you more examples of how rule of thirds can be used in different situations and different types of shots. So, In landscape shots, it's common to position the horizon along the center of the frame, but this can give the photo a split into two views, while instead, place it along one of the horizontal lines. Try to include another interesting object, for example, a tree, a bush, whatever you can find. Just try to fit it into your image, but don't try to fit in too much things, otherwise your image will have too much focus and the viewers won't know which one is the focus. So if you are using a tree just like this image, you will be able to create an anchor point that acts as a natural focal point for the scene. And here we have another image that shows you the main subject that has been placed at one of the intersections and also along one of the vertical lines. So the twig roughly follows the top horizontal line, and the empty space at the bottom left provides balance and prevents the picture from feeling overcrowded. You know what I mean? If you have too much things in your image, you will be overcrowded. Just like what I've said just now, too much focus in your image. Your viewers don't know which one is your focus and what to see, although your image is interesting. So when photographing moving subjects like this one, position them as normal, but also pay attention to the direction they are moving. As a general rule, you should leave more space in front of them to show where they are going. If the horse is moving to the right, then leave more space to the right. Don't leave too much space on the left, or else it will make it feel like it's going off frame and you are not able to catch up with the horse. So right now, we come to our second composition rules that can use in smartphone photography, which is framing. Well, framing is the technique of drawing attention to the subject of your image by blocking other parts of the image with something in the scene. It gives the image a sense of depth and layers and lead the viewer's eyes towards the main focal point, while surrounding your subject with a frame helps to draw the viewer's eyes into or through the frame directly to your point of interest, which is, for example, the model that you are taking a picture of. Well, your frame can be made like bridges, arches, open doorways, tunnels, or fans, or it can even be a natural substance like tree branches and tree trunks. So this picture is an example of framing by surrounding your subject with a natural arch-like frame to help draw the viewer's eyes through the frame directly to your point of interest, which in this point is the children and the adult playing by the seaside. Well, this is especially useful when your subject is relatively small within the scene. It prevents them from becoming lost in the scene. So whenever you are taking a photo of wide open scenes like this, look around for low-hanging tree branches or other objects that you can use as a frame. Often, you just need to take a few steps back so that you're standing beneath a tree, and you'll be able to create far more interesting landscape photos. Right here is another example of framing. Well, this picture was taken from a room view looking out during a trip at Bali. Well, it was quite interesting, so I decided to use panorama mode on my iPhone 7 and capture it. Moreover, the third composition rules, which is background. Alright, as we all know, background is always part of the overall scene. So we always need to do a background check, because if the background is distracting, then the viewer's eyes will look at the background instead of your subject. So what constitutes two bad backgrounds? Let's look at this image. Well, we can clearly see that this image was not taken properly. Why? Because we have a distracting background. How distracting it is? Viewers will normally look at the farm first instead of the Paris Tower and the main subject. So what do we need to do? Well, we just need to find a new position and give it a new perspective while shooting, so that it's not so plain and so ugly. At last, you'll get a shot just like this. The next tips for this composition rule is zooming in to your subject and keep the depth of field to only your point of focus, which is at this point a Coca-Cola bottle. Well, when the background is out of focus, it will not compete with our subject. So all we need to do is just zooming in and keep the depth of field to only the subject. If you don't keep the attention to only the bottle, then viewers' eyes will go straight to the car behind that is passing by. So that is all the tips that I can give you for background. And right now, we will enter the fourth composition rules, which is leading lines. Well, as we all know, leading lines is everywhere, and it is one of the most powerful composition techniques in photography as well as smartphone photography. So a lot of you might ask, how do you find a leading line? All you have to do is just get low to the ground, find something that leads your eyes to your subject or something at a distance. For example, a branch, a tree, or a wall, a fence, or even roads can become a leading line. Basically, everything can become a leading line, including a bunch of trees, just like this one. So, whenever you are out shooting, just look for leading lines. Then use them to create incredible depth in your photos. It will really help out a lot. And last but not least, the fifth and the last composition rules: switching different perspectives. Well, I've thought about different perspectives in my 5 tips that you might not know video. And in today's video, I'm going to share it with you even more tips about different perspectives. Well, previously, I only thought about it, but right now, I'm going to show you what I really mean. So, first of all, you're going to decide where you're going to stand to take a photo. Well, I know that a lot of beginners will actually take an image from eye level. Wow, that is wrong. That is totally wrong. To make your image interesting, you've got to go closer to your subject, just like this. Well, going close might seem like it's a small thing to do, but the position you shoot them will really make a lot of difference in photography, and it makes a lot of different meanings to your photo instead of just a plain shot showing an animal or just showing a sleeping cat sleeping on your couch. If you really go closer to your subject, you will be able to see that all the details is actually right there. So when you capture the details, you will get a beautiful image. While sometimes you can just break the rules and get an image just like this. But don't break the rules too often, otherwise your image will start to lose its original meaning. So I will recommend beginners to stick around with these 5 composition rules before going in depth to breaking the rules. So that's all from me about composition rules. I'm Edwin. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.